Dallas, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hello and welcome once again to the Somewhere Else.
Every time.
Hello,
Welcome to the Anything Else. I'm just going to start saying it. Welcome to the Anything Else podcast at Somewhere Else Pub and Grill.
My name is Olli Eldrick. I am your host. I'm joined today in the co-host chair by the wonderful friend of mine, Mr. Alex Lints.
Hello, hello.
And in the producer chair, we have the wonderful Mr. Dallas Outsider.
Hello, I'm Dallas.
And joining us in the hot seat today, we have Aurora.
Hi there.
Lovely to have you, darling.
Always a pleasure.
Now, Aurora, you and I have known each other for a while. You've known the guys for a bit. But not everyone who's listening to this might know who you are.
I assume everybody knows who I am, actually.
It's a good way to be, honestly. Self-confidence really
All
does help
10
in this
of our
industry.
listeners probably know who she is.
I'm just going to behave like I'm famous already. No, I'm kidding.
Alex's mum might not know who you are.
Fair.
All right.
My work buddy Chris, shout out Chris, might not know who you are. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, let's see. I'm Aurora, on stage, Aurora Bella. I front my solo project as Aurora Bella, and then I've got a band, Little Darkness. We're about to release an album in September, so that's exciting. I don't know. I write music.
Very
It's kind of
exciting.
cool. If you like it, listen to it. If you hate it, that's fine too, I guess. I'll be disappointed.
Well, your music's great, and we love talking to you, but for God's sake, can you talk about anything else?
This is your, like...
This is my lead-in.
No,
Yeah.
it's very good. I love it. Okay, so I get to, like, just info dump about my special interest now?
Just go for it.
All right, well, welcome to the segment on Greek mythology, because that is my undying obsession since I was a child. Couldn't tell you why. No, I can't. There was a book I had as a kid that was, like, a picture book, but it was all the Greek stories with slightly less sex and murder in them.
Slightly.
Slightly.
Can't take it
Still a
all
bit.
out or it doesn't make sense.
Oh, exactly. It's not fun otherwise. I was obsessed with that book, and that like developed into a full-blown like obsession with all things mythology. Since then, I don't know. I figure I've got stories, or
So you got into it as a child.
yes,
Is it just, and so like we're talking for the past, 15, 20 years or so? You've had this interest?
yeah. Actually, yeah. That sounds about like the right amount of time. I was like, I would have been 5, but actually, that's not true anymore. So.
Is it still just Greek mythology, or has it expanded to other realms of the mythos?
So it completely has expanded. Little bit of the connecting worlds. I wound up taking a class a few years ago that was on Greek classical mythology, and that was really cool because it meant that I got to, really immerse myself for a minute. But one of the things they discussed in that was the relation, of course, in the period of classical or even like pre-classical, like Homer type Greece. Greece didn't really exist. It was a group of city-states, and so they each have individual mythologies that relate back to how they were written down in Athens, which was more of the like classical Greek plays. And then it ties into things like Egyptian mythology because they were nearby, or, the evolution into Roman mythology and how the Romans conquered the whole sort of area, turned it into Greece as we know it, and adopted their mythos for other purposes, and how that connects to, say, the beginnings of Judaism or Christianity and stuff like that. I think that's really fascinating how all of these interconnected mythos like take from each other and take from far more ancient mythologies as well. I think that's fascinating.
So would you say here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you say you have more of an academic fascination in the history of the mythology, as in like how people perceived it, or an interest in the stories themselves? What would you say is the bigger one for you?
The bigger one is difficult because I think they're both like deeply fascinating. The more long-term fascination has always been with the stories themselves. I think they're beautiful. I write, for instance, I know I'm not supposed to talk about music right now, but I write a lot of songs.
You can, but you have to drink, but you're on the soda wall, so you're just making us suffer.
I'm sorry.
Suffer, he says.
Anyway, the point being that it just sort of like the stories themselves I think are fascinating. And there's like deep poetry that I think ancient stories really like bring. They're modern already, You know, despite the fact that there's like millennia between the creation and the development of these stories and us currently, a lot of our current stories are based on those stories, and there's this beautiful poetry and irony in these stories that is still fresh, amazingly.
Yeah, like it's like I'm sorry to cut you off. It's
you
just
go
that,
nuts.
like yeah, I've always been fascinated between the relation. Like if you ask any interviews with any of the people that were there for like the early development of comic books and stuff like that, like it's just the same thing. It's just modern day versions
Well, I mean,
of that mythos.
Comic books is a great example. How many like superheroes or other characters are based on mythological characters in any universe, and I think that's fascinating too. That they've readapted and readapted. I was a late Percy Jackson kid. That actually isn't at all where my everybody wants to ask that. I was not a Percy Jackson kid until after the obsession.
Right.
So you got into Percy Jackson because you had the obsession.
Because I loved Greek mythology, not the other way around. You know, that's another adaptation whereupon not everything is necessarily true to the originals, but it does take those plots and readapt them for new generations. And I think that's like fascinating that we can keep readapting these stories and they still feel fresh.
I think that's the thing is that like the I don't want to say the academic because I am not by any stretch of the word the academic, the should I say the know-it-all nerd inside of me desperately wants people to understand the original story.
Sure.
But there are really no original stories. Like we have the ones that were written down, but even the Homeric epics aren't written down by Homer. They were written down later.
That's the beauty of
it. And so the changing of them and even the modernization of them to this day is still just part of the same continuum we've been going through for a while. And I need to be aware of it. It's like descriptivist versus prescriptivist linguistics. Like the idea is like there's a part of me that's always going to be there because that's what I was raised with, that there's a way to do things properly.
Right.
But the proper way is the way people do it, not the way that someone said it should be done.
Well, and that's what I think is also so beautiful. So for instance, you know, the story of Persephone is one that's very prominent right now. A lot of people are readapting it currently, and I think that's fascinating all on its own. I love that story of you know, the story, for those of you who may not know, is of a goddess of spring who in some stories is captured, in some stories falls in love with the god of the underworld, of the dead, and goes down to be with him, and that determines how we create seasons. She is trapped in the underworld or stays in the underworld for 4 months, and the idea of the original story, or the original as in quotation marks,
as far as
yeah, one of the so this is what I'm gonna get at is so in this story is she eats 4 pomegranate seeds while she's down there, and because she's eaten the food of the dead, she is required to stay for the 4 months, one for each seed in the world, in the underworld, and that's like that. You know, there's a fascinating tale of seasons and of rebirth and death and stuff. Persephone is connected to the story of the goddess of Ishtar from Mesopotamian mythology.
Yeah.
Really deeply, and I think that's gorgeous that we have this slightly different story, but the same concept of a goddess, of a female goddess, which you will see happen over and over again in mythologies. The life and death and rebirth cycle, as depicted slightly more literally by a goddess descending on a traveler's journey into the underworld, and her return to bring new season, new life, and spring. And I think that connects to the idea of a mother goddess in spring, specifically when you know the snows have melted and the new life forms.
Because I think the only place you don't see it with a female goddess, if I'm correct, is in Egypt, because it's the path of Ra at that point, but that's more the daily cycle.
Sure,
yeah.
Although at the same time you have the path of Nun.
Oh yeah, of course.
Who swallows the sun and gives birth to the sun each day, which is slightly different. It's not quite as much of a death, you know, experience. And if anything, Osiris is the one who I believe dies in Egyptian mythology.
Yes.
And becomes the god of the dead, which is also fascinating. We do have this concept of death and rebirth in a lot as not relating to the mother goddess as well. I think other examples of this are Dionysus, who was born 3 times or 2 times, depending on his story. So there's actually some epithets for him. Dionysus I've forgotten the Greek words, but Dionysus twice born or thrice born were some of his epithets. And in the original, in one of the stories, he is born or not born. He is the son of Zeus, and he is his mother is a mortal goddess or not a mortal woman, sorry, and she gets tricked into looking upon her husband Zeus or her partner Zeus in his godly form, which humans could not do, and therefore dies. And in an effort to save the demigod, Zeus attaches Dionysus to his own calf or thigh and sews him in, and he is reborn that way. So that's the twice born epithet, right? He was once born accidentally when his mother perishes, and second time from the leg of his father. In a different story, Dionysus's original form is actually Zagreus, who was the son of Persephone by Zeus, and Hera gets mad and has him. He's born the normal godly way or whatever, and Hera has him torn to pieces out of rage, and because he is torn to pieces, the story goes that he was put inside of this mortal woman as his next birth. So there's actually like levels of underworld and connection once again to the world of the dead and the rebirth.
It does also that the underworld stuff also has one of my favorite words in Greek mythology, which is the word chthonic, because it's in it.
Yes.
Outside of like the concept of Cthulhu, you don't really get to do like the CTH sound a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, true.
Because chthonic deities are some of the oldest ones. Like Poseidon was originally a chthonic deity before Hades came around. Because that's the thing as well. Like I'm sure you're aware, Aurora. I'm preaching literally to the choir here. Most of the stories of like most of the Greek myth stories, everything from the Iliad to the Heraclean epics and stuff, whilst they were written down maybe in the Greek classical periods, take place way back, like pre-writing in some of them going as far back as the Minoan age, but most of them going back to the Achaean periods.
Yeah, well, and the stories themselves, of course, are like the classical Greeks defined ancient Greece, or the area that of city-states, the polis that were ancient Greece, as into 5 ages.
Yeah.
And you had the Age of Heroes and the Golden Age, and then the reset into the Silver Age, and the Dark Ages where Homer sprung from, and there were ages of giants and heroes and stuff like that. And the classical Greeks were like, no, those are ages gone by. We're telling stories that were, not that are, which is really fascinating, given that, of course, the religion was still a part of their lives, just through this past world where humans were fashioned out of clay or out of stone instead of or I believe stone was actually the final form, was they were stone people. But it was, there's like so many.
Doesn't feel like stone to me.
The stone thing's really cool too, because that's the story that there's an ark story in a lot of different mythos, because they're all from the same valley, and there was a real flood, and then you spread all of these different groups of people out through the world. And then the Greeks have a story very similar to Noah's Ark, where the whole world is flooded due to Prometheus's giving of fire to the world, and Pandora's box and all of these layers. But then 2 people are left alive because they build a boat and they survive, and then at the end they're told to throw rocks over their shoulders, and the rocks become the new era of people in the new age. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're supposedly descended from that age of people, the people that are post evil in the world.
Because everything's been so rosy ever since.
Yeah, because everything.
It is. Yeah, the deluge myth has always been one of my favorite ones because of how it's permeated through it. And have you ever heard of the fishing analogy before?
Sorry?
Fishing analogy. I don't know if it's a proper term or anything, but I remember someone who was doing sort of like Christian theology was talking to me about. talking about like the comparative when you do comparative mythology and stuff. It probably started as a historical event of like there was a wee bit of a flood, in the same way that like
And
you
then it
go out
gets
with you go
dramatized,
out with your
yeah.
buddy and you catch a fish, and the fish is like it's a bit big, you know, so it's a walleye that goes to like
Yeah.
here, and then you tell it in front of some girls, and all of a sudden the fish is now this big. And
By
then
the
you
end
tell
of
it
it,
to
you
your
have
kid
Moby
and-
Dick or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, and it's the same thing with pretty much
Absolutely.
every myth. And yeah, I always find that quite fun.
Well,
quite a fun thing to
and the
see.
way stories translate over time is so fascinating too. You know, can I tell one of my favorite bits of linguistics crossed with Greek mythology specifically?
Hang on, we'll quickly
Yeah.
confer. Yeah,
It's allowed.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
allowed. Okay. This is really fascinating. So this doesn't start in Greek mythology. This starts actually in Roman era Christianity, actually, and it's the word Lucifer.
Yeah.
And so the word Lucifer is fascinating to me because I've studied a bit of Judaic mythology, and Judaism doesn't have hell. That's a really interesting difference between Judaism and Christianity. There is no hell, there is no heaven, as there's a big argument instead. And the word Lucifer never shows up in Judaism. It doesn't exist. And I was like, okay, so why is that? And I looked up the meaning of Lucifer, right? Turned out Lucifer is a Latin word that literally means morning star. Cool. Lucifer translates in Greek to Eos Phoros, literally morning star, also known as Phosphoros or phosphorus, where we get the word phosphorus. And it literally means morning star there too. And he was a god of the first star in the morning, which is Venus. And he's a concept of the planet Venus, which of course is also tied to the goddess Aphrodite. So when you take these words as translated through Roman collecting of mythos, you wind up with the word Lucifer through Greek mythology.
It's a game of telephone.
Yeah, and you
it's
also-
a big game of telephone.
There's also, and I really hope I get this right, because I know there's someone who's going to be out there who's going to tell me I'm wrong. I think it's called computational identity.
Okay.
Which is the idea, the main example of computational identity, which is where the same concept is known by multiple names, is Venus being both the morning star and the evening star. It's the same thing.
True, yes.
I think it's called computational identity. If I'm wrong, what's our email?
Our email is we should start mentioning our email actually.
For
yeah.
corrections.
Anything else podsask@gmail.com, I believe.
Anything else to ask?
Yeah.
You'll find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's
if
in
I'm
our
wrong.
Instagram.
But yeah, it's a really cool thing.
And so the evening star in Greek mythology is Hesperos Phoros. It's a completely different name.
Yes.
Even though, yeah, as you say, it's the same character in weird, roundabout ways. And they fit in. And Eos Phoros, even though Venus is traditionally associated with Aphrodite and has been for a very long time, Eos Phoros is considered the daughter or the son of Eos, who is the dawn.
Yeah.
Little offside, that's where my name comes from. Aurora is the direct translation of Eos into Roman or into Latin. And so there's like weird little connections there too, which I think is fascinating. It probably got me into this in the first
I was
place.
going to say, do you think your name like helped with a fairly like mythological name like Aurora?
I only learned that part much later because,
Oh, fair enough.
I was named after the Aurora Borealis, which is Latin, obviously, but it's very obvious what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And then I got to like, I love name origins. That's another little linguistics fact. So I get to be like, oh, what does somebody's name mean, and translate it through, various languages until you find what not the original, but somewhere along the line where it had meaning other than being a name. And I think that's really cool. I mean, taking words apart is so cool, especially how they apply to English, because English is such a conglomerate language. That you can take almost anything and translate it through French, Latin, Greek, or German, and you'll
Yeah.
find the answer.
Yeah, nothing's ever straightforward with English. Most English words are Germanic in origin. Some of the specialist ones obviously going to be Latin or Greek or whatever. But yeah, even the ones that come through French don't come through French. They come through Old French, which comes from Vulgar Latin, which comes
Yeah.
from Latin, which probably comes from fucking Etruscan or Greek or whatever.
There are texts by people Latin professors in Rome complaining about this new slang form of Latin that was Old French.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
Honestly, one of my favorite things like that is the kids these days thing that you can find if you go back long enough. Like, obviously, people always say, like, kids these days do this,
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and the other. if you go back 100 years, people are reading books too much.
Yeah.
Sorry, he was listening to radio too much. Then it was reading newspapers. And why are you reading newspapers? Read a book. Read a full thing.
Yeah.
And then people were reading books on trains. Why don't people talk on public transit anymore? People are so rude these days.
Yeah.
And there's all these things, and it goes back, and you can find like things from like the 1400s being like, my son's trying to learn to read, and I find that a bit dickish of him.
Yeah, no, and this is true in everything too. One of my favorites that I've been studying up on is the idea of corsetry, or stays in various periods of European fashion, were originally to help women stay upright. Because before that you had to do it yourself, and that's a lot of work. I say slouching right now.
I'm just having a great time.
And you have actually documents, cartoons in the paper of men complaining about this new thing that prevented that women were using to either over conceal themselves or under conceal themselves, or it's this new fashion and it's horrible, and here's why. Another big one was hoop skirts or corsetry in England were written about by men, and there are cartoons of with big hoop skirts becoming a thing because they were lighter for women. They were actually easier than the layers of petticoats they'd worn before, so it was quite an advancement for women's fashion. You'll have men saying, cartoonizing the idea that or older folks in general, cartoonizing the idea that you couldn't get near women anymore. There was too much padding around them because the hoop skirts were too big, or various things like that. And so we've always looked down upon the new. And these days, you talk about corsets, you immediately see all of the folks in the media, the movies saying, well, they make it impossible to breathe. You need a fainting couch. All of these why can't women wear pants? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. But also, that's not what the discussion of the time was at all. Also, it was actually about how modern these things were.
But then we're seeing like a reverse thing I've seen recently with a lot of people, is that the corset has become not a thing of like feminine restriction, but of feminine expression.
Yeah.
So everything, as people always say, fashion comes back around. Things, growing up, skinny jeans were all the rage, and now I'm seeing bell bottoms and I'm seeing Jinko jeans coming back, I swear.
People are wearing Krusty Burger shirts. Society is breaking down.
I mean, yeah, the fashion cycle comes back around, of course, but also very specifically, I'm trying to, the relation back to the idea that it's always kids these days, that nobody can accept what is new, even when it's not new. And the same thing that is new and complained about right now will be old news and in fact considered dated not long from now, less than 100 years. I think that's fascinating.
I'm feeling old before my very eyes a lot of the time. Yeah, no, it's super cool.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that, I think this is a good point to bring up the fact that, part of this podcast is we're trying to educate Dallas a little bit. He's an audio tech, and he's a damn good audio tech, but that's his main education is in audio, and he doesn't have a very wide education sense. So it's great to be able to get on people that are experts in different things and teach him a bunch of facts. So Dallas, do you have any questions for Aurora here about anything you've heard?
What Greek god do you think is most likely to face the wrestler Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship belt?
Oh, Heracles.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a pretty easy one.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Still stuck in that rut, Dallas. Got one lane.
And to be clear, Heracles was advanced to god status, so he's not just a demigod.
He did get
much like how The Rock was elevated to Hollywood status right now.
Precisely. There's also this one guy in ancient Greece that I think is fascinating who got, because, now how did it go? He lifted a big rock or something like that, and after his death, he became just a local deity because he was just that strong.
Yeah, because he's fucking sick. And he's called Dwayne The Rock Johnson. We love him to this day. We're going to move on, Aurora. Thank you so much for the wonderful display of Greek mythology and whatnot. It's always nice to see, but we want to make sure that you are a well-rounded individual beyond your passion project. So we're going to start off with a couple of segments. The first one's called Who Dis.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the name of a real-world person. I'm not expecting you to know who that person is. I just want you to tell me who you think that person is based on the vibes their name gives off.
All right.
And your person today is Young Boozer.
Young Boozer?
Young Boozer. Spelled exactly how you think it's spelled.
Oh, goodness. Let's see. I'm thinking about wrestling now. I have to get out of that space. And this is a real historical person.
Historic is a stretch, but he's a real person.
He's a real person, I was going to say.
He could be listening.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with historic. I think that this is somebody from the 20s, potentially mafia. Yeah, he seems like some of the nickname you would have in you know.
So you're taking this as a nickname of like a mafioso kind
Yeah,
of
this feels like somebody who like ran a group of people in New York, maybe bit of an accent. Had a front that was a pizza store or something, you know?
You're going to be so confused when I tell you who this person is after this. But the next thing is, as well as I want to make sure that our guests can think on their feet. I want you to be able to answer questions as well as a 22-year-old accounting student from somewhere in the Midwest of the United States.
Okay.
And so this is our Miss World segment. This is a question that's been asked at a beauty pageant somewhere in North America in the past few years.
Okay, I think I can handle that.
And I just want to make sure that you can answer the same way as one of those girls can. For you, it's, do you think college athletes should be paid?
That's the whole question?
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, I think, to be honest, my hot take is I think anyone in college should be paid. So yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, this one came from either Miss Texas or a somewhat Texan.
Texas adjacent.
Texas adjacent.
Sure,
One
yeah.
might even say Nevada.
What?
It's Texas adjacent.
Not very much at all. Like
No, it's not.
Oh, no, I meant Arizona. Shit.
at all.
Shit. I don't know my geography. Okay.
Okay, so
not my role.
Actually, even Arizona is.
Leave me alone. It's not my role.
It's a Palomino. Thank you very much for that. Moving on from that.
I love how the Midwest and the South are all one place now.
Good Lord. No one can tell where Saskatchewan is, but no one in Saskatchewan can tell where anything else is, apparently.
I'm from Iowa, so apparently that's Texas
Oh, do you know the
adjacent.
Aaron Ball Band? Oh,
That's
music.
Idaho. That's Idaho.
Oh, yeah.
And also drink. So the next segment for you is we want to make sure that you these are some questions that we've got from Trivial Pursuit, a fairly recent edition, and by
Okay.
fairly recent, I mean they're from 1993. This is Are You
Fantastic.
Smarter Than Dallas Outsider? Alex is going to ask you 5 questions. We're going to give you, as the guest, a chance to answer first. If you get them wrong, we hand them over to Dallas, and your whole thing is just do better than Dallas.
I want to be clear, by the way, I was born in 2000, so these questions are in fact older than I am.
They're older than all of us. If there's any consolation.
Okay, so question 1. What Grand Slam tennis tournament offered $9,022,000 in prize money?
Grand Slam tennis tournament?
Just, yeah, what Grand Slam tennis tournament?
I don't know any tennis. Is like Wimbledon a thing?
It is a thing, but that's not correct.
Dallas?
I actually don't know. I don't know anything about tennis. Tennis tournament. I don't know. Okay.
It's not just called tennis tournament. There's not one just.
Well, it was the U.S. Open.
Oh, that would have been my second guess. So.
It should have been you first. Question 2.
What 12-year-old goody-goody played a psychotic in The Good Son?
12-year-old. I don't know anything. Let's see. I gotta pull something out. Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shit.
I was going to say
Oh,
Bill
yeah.
Clinton.
Yeah. When
I
in
heard-
doubt in this game, go Bill Clinton.
Okay.
It's a good chance it's Bill Clinton.
He's been the answer to 3 or 4 of the questions. I think he's come up at least once every game so far.
Yeah. What late-night keyboardist leads the CBS Orchestra, or I should say led in 1993 the CBS Orchestra?
Yeah, man. Lead. Goodness.
And then was a late-night band leader for a long time on one of the more famous late-night shows.
Oh, man. For a keyboardist, I know remarkably few piano players. Stevie Wonder.
Nope. Dallas.
The guy who does the music for David Letterman.
Yeah, what's his name?
I don't know.
Oh, is it?
I think I know who this
Is
is,
it
but I
Paul
don't know his
something?
name.
Yeah.
Is it Paul Shearer?
Oh, very close. It's Paul Schaefer.
shit.
Canadian, by the way.
He was in Schitt's Creek. He was in the Christmas
Yeah.
episode.
Oh.
And that's the only reason I know his name.
What you're saying is I'm gonna get eaten alive for not knowing that one.
Not
As soon
necessarily.
as this episode comes out to Aurora, we need to talk to you about it.
David Letterman's going to be very mad, but
Do I get half a point for knowing who
Well,
the guy
Sure,
is.
you can. A half point isn't going to help you much, but sure, if it makes you feel better.
Okay, it's 1.5 at question 3.
This
What's
is
question
going
4?
badly all around.
What animals began serving as caddies on a North Carolina golf course for $100 per golfer?
$100 animals, caddies.
You could hire this animal as a caddy.
Or at least,
For
at least you
$100.
could in 93.
Yeah.
Donkey.
No.
A dog.
A llama.
Oh,
A
Interesting.
llama?
A llama.
Ooh.
fascinating.
And for the last question, it all comes down to this.
Okay. What color are the feet of Socks, the White House cat, as of 1993? The White House's official cat, Socks.
What color are the feet? I'm gonna go with white.
It's white.
Yes.
Yeah.
If a cat is named Socks, it
Yeah.
has white
It-
feet. I
it's
should
two,
hope.
It's 2 to 1/2. Yeah, it was a Bill Clinton related question.
was a Bill Clinton
It's Bill
related
Clinton's
question,
character.
yes.
Rest in peace,
What
Socks.
color are
We
the
miss
feet of
you.
Socks? Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah, so we're going to move on from that. So
Fantastic.
congratulations, Aurora, you won.
Amazing.
You can keep some of the dignity. Dallas, do better. We're going to move on to the quick fire round. This is just to give our readers the idea, the ability to just create a better idea of who you are.
Okay.
An FBI profile, if
Pretty
you will.
much, yeah.
Oh, good God.
So first of all, what is your favorite Tom Hanks movie?
Favorite Tom Hanks movie? I gotta think about this. Give me 2 seconds here. Man, I don't know the answer to this one. Give me a. There was one, and I hate being. Oh no! You know what it was? I hate being like, this is my favorite one, and yet I don't know the name of
Describe
it.
it. Just describe it.
It was the one where he's the manager for a band in the.
Oh, that thing you
Oh,
do.
that thing
Yeah,
you
that
do.
thing
That was
you
actually his
Fucking
directorial.
love
That was
that
his
movie.
directorial debut.
Yep.
It's a great film.
There we go.
Fantastic
It's a good film.
Do you know what the bass player's called in that film?
No.
TB player.
What?
TB player.
The bass player.
That's
My
amazing.
bass player from high school is still in my phone as TB player. I don't remember his name.
I think bass players are just like that. No
Yeah.
hate to my
Yeah.
bass players out there.
As there's two sitting right here.
2.5. He plays baritone. Okay. What's the best scene in? What's your favorite scene in that thing you
In
do?
the specifically
Yeah.
that thing you do? I don't think it's a Tom Hanks scene, but literally, I think the speeding up of the first song, I think it's really fascinating. That the weird being at odds with your own music and stuff, I think is a really cool
Drink.
take. I'm sorry.
But no, you're right. It is a great. Oh, honestly, that thing you do. That and A League of Their Own, 2 films that people just stop talking about and they shouldn't have. They are great.
Crying in baseball.
There is no
I
crying
love
in
A League
baseball.
of Their Own. Have you seen the TV show based on it?
Not yet. No.
Not
I-
as
Oh, it's-
good.
Okay,
I
but
don't think.
it's not as good, but it is so good. And they
it's
got
good. It got cancelled after 1 season, so
I was devastated.
I don't watch things on their first season anymore because I just don't trust network executives.
It was so good, and it was so gay, and it had what's her name? Who plays Janet in The Good Place?
Darcy Carden.
Darcy Carden. Yeah. Fuck, she's so cool.
Second question:
Yeah.
which cereal leaves the best milk?
So you're gonna hate me for this. I really don't like cereal. I think that cereal and milk shouldn't be together.
You're the second person to not talk who says that they don't eat cereal with milk.
So I have a problem in my brain that says that grain doesn't belong in liquid, which means I also almost never eat noodles in soup.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Because with the exception of rice noodles and like pho or
Yeah.
Thai soups, I think those are the exception. But like chicken noodle soup, I will eat the noodles and I will eat the soup. I will not put them together. Cereal's okay. Cereal and milk, bad time. Not happening.
Interesting. Dallas, as the resident foodie, what's your takeaway from this?
I'm okay with that, honestly.
You are.
I'm not. Well, I'm a very saucy guy,
You are.
so anything dry is a no on my books. But you know,
You still
I can-
passionate?
I still can't get over when Chris Vassar said he once tried cereal with beer instead of milk, and Dallas said it's just
Oh.
beer with pulp.
Oh no.
We-
Okay. Sorry.
We're gonna stick with more morning routines or evening routines. We don't judge here
Okay.
at the Anything Else podcast.
Yeah.
When you are in the shower, do you generally face towards or away from the water? Like everyone said, rotating. I'm gonna restrict this to
No.
like
Like,
Pick a
what's your default?
no, this is actually interesting. My default is away from the shower head.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sticking on that same thing, do you soap or shampoo first?
Actually, shampoo, you let it sit. You use soap, then you wash it all off, then you do conditioner.
I put out my defense for soap first in the last episode with Adam Beitel, so you should check that one out if you want to know what my feelings are on that.
Conversely, just shampoo, it covers your body. It's soap anyway.
So are you a fan
And
of
then you
like
smell better.
3-in-1s?
Yeah, I was gonna say
I'm not a fan of 3-in-1s. I have very specific shampoo, but it's nice and it smells good. So.
Alex, you're a fan of 3-in-1s, aren't you?
I mean, I'm a fan of just whatever happens
You're a very
to
utilitarian
be. Whatever
man.
happens to be there, I've always been that way.
Whatever Lacey brought, you're
whatever
happy
is
with.
under the sink when I'm out, that's what I'm using.
Okay, next question. One of is an interesting one that people always get taken aback by. What is the object you own the most of that you are not collecting?
That I own the most of that I'm not collecting.
Not explicitly collecting.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like-
This isn't intentional, so it's not like
Just
my
something you
Japanese
happen to
paper
have
collection or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah. Okay.
Something you just happen to have a lot of.
Let's see. Butter containers, because I can't have dairy, so it's like the tubs of butter that have turned into Tupperware.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just like tons of those. They're useful, but
Oh, yeah.
but they like I want to say there's an entire cabinet dedicated to
My
various tubs of butter.
parents have like 2 tubs and an overflow of like Chinese takeout and
Yeah.
Indian
Oh,
takeout
sure,
containers
yeah.
that,
Perfect, yeah.
that they just use for They also have proper Tupperware that they don't use
Yeah.
because they're not uniform, so they don't stack as easily.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is we just changed at my place. We used to get like smaller square tubs, and so I've got a bunch of those. But now we're onto the big Costco butter tubs because they last
yeah.
forever in my family. And yeah, now we have like this stack of really nice, large containers that you can put your leftover dinner in, and you get a full. So I've been making one-pot meals and just dumping them in a couple of butter containers.
Yeah, even like a
Nice.
small butter tub thing. That's still like a good if you're having like a pasta, for instance, that's a good lunch. I think that's a good lunch size. Any smaller, maybe a little
Yeah.
bit limited.
My
Look-
alternate answer. Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah, I was gonna say my alternate answer is shopping receipts because I never get rid of any shopping receipts, so they
out of
sit in the
paranoia?
corner. No, I just don't remember to throw things out.
It's why I always
So-
insist on not getting a receipt, because if it goes in my wallet, it stays there for a while.
I have a buildup in my wallet that's just like there's a certain portion that's like normal cash, and then it's just like receipt.
I was sitting weird for about 2-3 months because I just had a buildup of like receipts. So I was just sitting like this and being like, I don't feel comfortable. And I took out this like 1-inch thick.
One sec.
Oh god, how thick is it? Oh god,
Yikes.
show the camera. Show the.
There you go.
God
Some
damn.
of that's guitar picks, but mostly.
Yeah.
And another question, another good one. What's your guilty pleasure fast food? Like
Guilty
what
pleasure
do you
fast-
know? What do you know you're a piece of shit for ordering, but you're going to order?
So I didn't really have fast food until adulthood. It wasn't a thing in my house ever. And these days it's the burgers at A&W.
Okay.
And it's not that big of one, it's just like a straightforward burger, no cheese because I can't eat cheese. Normally in a lettuce wrap because I can't eat bread either. But it tastes really good and it's not that healthy.
Honestly, to be fair, like the fact that you're still going through all that effort to still consume A&W despite all the pitfalls,
Despite the length of work.
it's kind of a piece of shit. I'll take that as a piece of shit
But
moment. Yeah.
they cut a whole head of lettuce in half and use it as the bun too. It's not like it's
Oh, no,
half
no,
lettuce.
I don't
There's
think you're
barely
eating
any
like a
point.
loose disc of.
No, so, yeah, some restaurants you go to and they wrap it in like a little sheet
Yeah.
of lettuce or a piece of butter lettuce or something, and it's nice. This is like 2 halves of a head of lettuce sandwiched together and a little bit of meat in the middle, and you're like, I don't know why I'm going for fast food if I get a head of lettuce. This isn't worth it. I don't like lettuce that much, but I'm eating it anyway.
I like,
Here I am,
like
and it's
lettuce,
3
but I
a.m.
don't like lettuce that much.
What's your opinion on that, Dallas?
I think it's decent, I guess.
You're not a huge A&W dude, actually, are you?
I love A&W.
Do you?
actually.
No,
Okay.
I like Dallas and I think our biggest agreement is that A&W is great.
I'm not a like McDonald's or anything like that fan, but I will eat A&W. I think it's one of the better fast foods out there.
One of the first meals I ever ate when I was in Canada was an A&W. It was an Uncle Burger. I
Right, because
remember.
it's Canadian, isn't it?
Yeah, and
I forget
I, the first thing I ate when I landed was like it was an extra large Twix. I remember because I had no food when I landed, obviously, and so I went to the Circle K and I got myself a very large Twix.
I love Twix.
I love Twix, underrated. And I got myself a bottle of Coke, and then the next day I went out, and then in the evening I went and got A&W. I got
My sister, the A&W guy, like from all the commercials.
Yeah.
My sister, when she was still going to U of R, she was working out in the gym. She was on like an elliptical, and she was just looking out the window. And he just walked by, like they were on campus doing like a commercial or something, and she just saw him walk by, and she was just so confused.
I thought you meant the cartoons that they have.
No, like the guy.
The real guy. Yeah.
So like she just was texting me. She's like, I think I just saw the A&W guy, but I can't be certain.
I
I
love
thought-
that. Oh, sorry. Go.
Oh, no, you
I was
go
gonna say I love that could be the like, who's the celebrity you've seen in person thing, and it's just the A&W guy.
In the UK, we had a bank called. We still might have a bank called Halifax, and the commercials all had this guy called Howard from Halifax, and Howard's just he's just a bank manager for one of the branches. And like people have been like, I've met Howard. I'm like, I guess he is a real person who's continued to exist outside of the short span of my childhood where he was in adverts all the time.
I don't mean to keep turning it to Dallas, but actually this is an interesting because of like all the TV shows you've been an extra in and stuff. Who's the most famous person you've met? I've never asked you this.
Robert Pattinson.
When did you meet Robert Pattinson?
When I was like 11.
Why did you meet Robert Pattinson?
Okay, it's a very quick.
Sorry, Aurora, we'll be back to you in a second.
I'm curious. It's okay.
It's a long, quick story.
It's a long, quick story.
one of the cast members from Twilight had a band, and they played at the Rickshaw Theater in Vancouver. And my mom and I went there, and I was like 11. And this guy came up and be like, "You want to come over to the backstage and meet one of the people from Twilight?" It was like, "Oh, sure, why not?" And we thought it was gonna be like, I don't know, one of the side characters,
some
or
cast
something.
member.
We went to the back. It was a very thin hallway, and then there's a ladder that goes up to the attic. And some guy was walking down, butt crack hanging out. He turns around. It's Robert Pattinson.
So you've seen Robert Pattinson's butt crack?
Yes.
What's it like?
Yeah, what's it like? Is it good
It
butt
looks
crack?
it looks like an average man's butt crack, honestly.
Honestly, kind of disappointing.
That is kind of disappointing.
Celebrities are no different from us.
Like Al
Truly.
Pacino in Heat, I thought he would have a great arm.
Honestly, I thought he'd be fairly assless. I don't know why. I just imagined Robert Pattinson, especially like Twilight era Robert Pattinson, as being like ultimately very assless. My last question for you, by the way, is one that we've been bringing back. This is a shout out to Dallas's other podcast, two new co-hosts, and the question is very simply ghosts? Question mark.
Ghosts? Is like yes or no ghosts?
Ghosts?
No, hate
Question-
them, like them. What's your opinion? What's your deal with ghosts,
What's
man?
the deal with ghosts?
What's the deal? We're gonna get sued for that.
Let's see. I think there's a lot that we don't know. I think that I'm not like a spooky show or movie person, so that doesn't help me on any fronts. I'm very easily spooked. Do not try that right now, because I know what everybody wants to try.
Alex is a little bitch when it comes to horror movies.
I don't do
Little bit,
horror
yeah.
movies ever.
I'm a little bitch when it comes to horror games.
Yeah, horror games. My friends tried to make me play the one where you're like on a radio headset and you're paranormal investigators in a house.
Oh, I don't know which. Dallas?
Oh, Phasmophobia?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, this is pretty light on the scale of nope. Not happening.
We were playing Amnesia the Bunker the other week.
At like
and
3 a.m.
and even in the daylight we were playing it, I still screamed very like a little bitch.
In the era of the pandemic, I was very chronically online and a gamer for that entire time of being stuck in the house. And mostly it was the nice ones, but sometimes you'd be on with friends and they'd be like, "We're all playing this, get on." And I deeply regret letting myself be bullied into playing a game called Devour.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
You've heard of it?
Yep.
Yeah. Whereupon you have to collect tiny little Satan goats and put them in a dish of some sort.
Yeah.
Well, a very creepy figure runs around, and every once in a while you get jump scared. And the first time it happened, I'd been following one of my friends around, like being like, "Oh, this is fine. I'll handle this. We'll just get through the game. They've all played it before. They know how to fix the game. We're on easy mode, maybe." No, first jump scare, I believe it was just like a face on your screen suddenly, and I want to say I screamed, kicked the back wall, and shut my computer off. And then I logged back on and I was like, yeah, I'm not ever playing that again. Don't make me do this.
I can watch other people play games. Like when we're doing the only, I wasn't in control. I was watching these guys. Still get spooked, but like I can deal with it. It's fun. During the pandemic, I bought Soma. If you've heard of it,
don't know that one.
It's a pretty good game. I do recommend it to anyone. It's a really good like philosophical game about the concept of humanity and all that. But at the end of the day, it's a spooky game where there are spooky people chasing you. It's a bit Amnesia-esque in some ways.
Okay, sure.
And you start off as like a dude, and you go into a building, and you sit down to this machine. The doctor's like, "Don't worry, you're going to be fine." And then you wake up, and you're in like this creepy, like subnautical, like rusted out place. And I was like, "Oh, I don't really like this. This is creepy." And I took one step, and I heard this noise just go, like just a groan, and it freaked me out so much. I pressed. I played 23 minutes of that game. I think in total. I think it's what my Steam account says. And I think I spent the first 15 to 20 minutes just in the safe prologue bit.
I've done very similar thing with do you know the game Subnautica?
Yep.
Yeah. So that one's it's supposedly less scary than some like real horror games. It's like spooky but not scary. I love that game. I've only played a little amount of time because somebody has to be looking over my shoulder the whole time I play, or I will just cry. And I spent, I want to say, the first 3 hours of playing that game in the safe zone, being afraid to stab the fish because I knew some of them could hurt you back. None of the ones in the area could hurt you back.
You finished us out with the...
Yeah, so our final segment of the quickfire round is the recommendation station. So Aurora, did you know that it is recommended that you give your dishwasher a deep clean every once a month? How often do you clean your dishwasher?
Is this the part where I have to admit I live with my parents?
How often do your parents clean your dishwasher?
I don't know the answer to that.
Honestly, like no one comes out of the recommendation station looking clean. None of us look good after it.
Yeah, I have no clue. I have to assume it's like not the least often in the world.
It's not once a month.
No.
Does anybody?
I don't know. No.
Dallas?
No, I don't have a dishwasher.
I normally only notice the dishwasher when it leaks. It did leak through the ceiling once. That was a fun night. My family was away for a while, and dishwasher poured through the ceiling, and I was like, shit.
That's why we don't use the dishwasher back home, in case you guys were wondering why.
Fair enough. I prefer washing.
Although my dad claims it's fixed now, but my mom just doesn't want to chance it, and my dad just gets mad that she won't try it.
I tend to wash things by hand, to be fair. But yeah, we're going to finish up a little bit. This is just news from elsewhere. Effectively, this is local news from anywhere but Saskatoon. We're going to start with Alex. You've got our first one.
Yeah, so this is the Florida Man segment, where I just kind of hit you with a Florida news story headline, and just to see what you think of the headline here. Suspected DUI golf cart driver leads deputies on chase in the Villages.
I love that. I love the image conjured of a guy in a golf cart.
Picture what he looks like.
Yeah, picture what this person looks like.
Oh, man.
This is the perp. How would you describe this man?
Like a guy who would probably lead a chase in a golf cart, to be honest. You gotta admit, he probably had a blast before they got him.
I'm sorry. Like a golf cart is not super heavy. I don't think you can seriously injure someone with a golf cart unless you drop it on them. And so, like, yeah, it's the fact he managed to get on a police chase with them is great. But yeah, like that just sounds like a fun night out. To be fair. Sounds like something Dan Ferguson would really enjoy.
It really does sound like a Dan thing. And so now we're going to hit you with some 3 headlines of local news. Not local to you, but local to us. So these is 3 news stories from our neck of the woods where we grew up. Because none of us are from Saskatoon, so...
So from Nottinghamshire, we have thief broke into theatre and stole alcohol.
Was this another one of those seagull things?
What?
What?
Wasn't there like a whole bunch of things in, I think it was England, where seagulls kept breaking into stores and stealing shit?
I would assume Brighton.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I've been around seagulls a lot, and seagulls are a piece of shit. Like, if seagulls went extinct, I would not shed a tear. The conservationist in me does not extend to seagulls, pandas, or wasps, really. I think that's it. But yeah, a thief who broke into a city centre theatre has now been sentenced after being tracked down by police. Why would you break into a theatre for booze? Maybe low security, but like...
I was going to say, like, teenagers?
No, this is not a teenager. This is an adult.
No,
He's 48.
I mean teenagers run movie theater concessions, right?
No, this is theatre.
Like a genuine theater.
The Wellington Circus.
Oh, the Wellington. The venue. It says the Wellington venue. Oh, it's the Playhouse. Yeah, the Playhouse is a great theatre, by the way.
Oh, very cool.
Shout out to the Playhouse.
Yeah. Okay. So not a film theater, but
a play theatre.
Play theater.
Not a cinema.
Yeah, that's a strange choice.
Yeah, I've been, like, don't get me wrong, the Playhouse is great, but, like, they don't exactly have the widest selection at the bar. Also, there's an Anish Kapoor, like, sculpture just outside. Steal that.
Yeah.
1, it's worth a lot of money. 2, I don't have to look at some shitty Anish Kapoor artwork outside of my favourite local theatre.
I take it you're a Stuart Semple fan.
I'm not a big fan of Anish Kapoor. I'm a fan of anyone else. Alex, what have you got for us?
Well, I've got from Westman. It's more of a feel-good story, I suppose. So one of Westman's most loved mascots, Boys of Vane's Tommy the Turtle, is turning 50 this year. It all began in 1972 is where it began. So Boys of Vane is famous for doing turtle races. They they have a history of they will put turtles in these boxes and then they lift the door up and the turtles race to see which turtles are the fastest.
Sure.
And they have, I guess, would probably be the world's largest turtle statue. We'll have to go there someday because I know you like me appreciate a good world's largest stuff. And so yeah, Tommy
That's
the
why
Turtle.
you're in Saskatchewan. I take it.
Tommy the Turtle turns 50 this year.
Nice.
A landmark I
Wow.
used to go to every summer.
So in 50
Incredible.
in 50 years, how many turtle races have been completed? How long is it? Is it a 100-yard, 100 feet dash? Is it a foot dash?
I think there's a photo. Yeah. So this is where they do the turtle races from. So there's this kind of booth thing, and then underneath is the little. You can kind of see underneath. There's the little boxes where they put the turtles, so they don't actually have to get far, but they are turtles.
Okay.
So
It takes them a while. Actually, fun fact: my mum had.
Is a turtle?
No, my
Teenage Mutant Ninja Liz.
my mum had a tortoise that ran away.
Oh. How do
Sorry,
you pull
Mum.
that off?
I don't know. I'm sure. Mum, email the podcast and let us know.
Turns out it didn't run away, Ollie. They were just trying to.
It wasn't my tortoise.
Oh, I thought it was one of those that ran away while you were at summer camp.
Oh no, my
things.
parents were brutally honest about what happened to their animals growing up. Jeez,
Oh,
I heard some
boy.
stories.
What's happened in Vancouver, Dallas?
Also on the lighter side, Aurora Borealis dazzles over BC recently over at in the Harrison Lake area.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a good photo.
Very cool.
So are you
Was
asking her
that
if
from-
she knows this Aurora?
Yeah. What does?
That's
yeah.
me. I was over there dazzling.
From one Aurora to the other,
Simple man.
Is that from the what do you call it? The solar productivity period?
Yeah, I get-
the other month.
yeah, I guess it would be.
I was driving down from teaching in Stanley Mission. It was my last drive down the day that all happened, and I got to see step outside of the car in the middle of nowhere somewhere between Larange and PA, and just I think there was construction on the road, and they had one of those timers, and it was like 3-minute countdown before we got to cross the bridge, and we just stood and looked up at the sky, and it was the biggest aurora I'd ever seen.
I've never seen. I've been in town for 2 Aurora Borealises. We've come over Saskatoon and been visible.
Mm-hmm.
The latest one, I was at yours, and we were inside when it happened. The first one, though, I was outside. I was walking back from a date, and I just had to look up, and I would have seen it, and I just didn't.
Oh no!
You might not have seen it
So-
because light pollution, right?
No, and people were like, oh, it was amazing. It was dazzling over the city.
Are you saying you've never seen one in town?
No, you are the only Aurora I've seen Aurora.
Oh man.
Oh, there's a couple other people named Aurora in town, so
don't
you
know
might
them,
run
though.
into another one. But yeah, no. The one thing I recommend I have friends, from when I lived in BC or various places who come here, and the first thing I try to do with somebody who's never lived here before is, I wait till it's nighttime, and it's not necessarily even for the Aurora Borealis, but I wait till it's nighttime, and this sounds really creepy, I drive them out to the middle of nowhere where there are no lights or people around, and then I just tell them to look up.
It's
And I'm, people, especially I find from the mountains of BC and stuff, find like, because it's so vast here, you have no sense of like Saskatchewan. Like just seeing the sky like that at night gives you such a sense of insignificance and like cosmic, like your place in the world suddenly, and it can be fucking terrifying to deal with that.
I get vertigo a little bit, but I do
Yeah.
I had it first time in this is gonna sound like a brag, and it is. The first time was when I was camping in the Blue Ridge Mountains in not West Virginia, in Western Virginia, in the
Sure.
Panhandle, and yet seeing the sky in all of its glory is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also had it at your farm out in West Manitoba.
I just want to say, as somebody from Manitoba and like land of living skies, you think we don't have the same fucking sky?
Yeah, but you've got some hilly bits in the east, so you can't count on it.
Technically, Saskatchewan has the tallest hills between Saskatchewan and I think Ontario
Oh.
or Quebec, maybe. I don't remember. But yeah, so we technically have bigger hills because of Cypress Hills.
Well, I
than
think the reason why
Manitoba.
we went for living skies is because Montana had already claimed big sky country.
I suppose.
Because we can't, because like
Land
big-
of Living Skies is way cooler than Big Sky
Yeah, but the
Country,
thing is,
though.
people always say like living skies. Oh, it's because of the Aurora Borealis. I thought it was just because like we're so fucking flat, you get that much sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the Aurora Borealis. It's everything.
It's
It's,
the
the
it's the-
stars.
it's
It's
the
the
sunsets.
storms. It's the sunsets. I used to live in the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan, Crake. And we would. I lived slightly on a slightly higher plane of Saskatchewan than the other side of.
All right, no need to brag. Yeah,
And
you're better than us. We get it.
yeah, exactly. And you could see the tornadoes coming, the storms coming, whatever it was, the lightning storms. It just a big cloud, and you could watch it for like hours, sometimes. Just go by you. You're like, oh well, it's probably raining over there. Or the sunsets, or the crop dust in the air, creating the red moons. Everything is just like bigger here.
I'm a big fan of crop dusting, but people don't like when I do it near them. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on to
Wow,
on our
okay.
podcast. Have you got any final things you want to talk about before we wrap things up?
And wide open, you can talk about music this
I'm
time.
allowed? No
You're
drinking?
allowed to talk about music.
Okay.
You made it through the gauntlet. This is
Let's
your reward.
see. Well, thanks for having me. First of all, this was a lot
Wonderful
of
to
fun.
have you.
For those of you listening, stay tuned. I've got an album out already for Under Aurora Bella. The album's called Persephone, if you wondered where my special interests connected. And that came out in January. I've got some shows coming up later in September, October, where my band's album, Little Darkness' self-titled album, is going to be released on September 7th, along with the same day as maybe September 6th, I guess, because whatever the Friday is. And then the album release show is going to be at Amigos on the September 7th.
With Landfall, I believe.
With Landfall and Scouts Honor.
Ooh, nice.
And there will be liquid light shows, I've heard. So it'll be like a really big thing. I'm really excited about it. It's the band's first album. I figured it was cool. We get a self-titled because the first song on the album is called Little Darkness. I'm not sure I'm supposed to talk about that.
So it's been Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath from Black Sabbath.
Well, you know what? Just because somebody's done it before. We were just talking about the fact that there's nothing new and
Yeah,
all of these.
Bad Company by Bad Company from Bad
Yeah,
Company.
yeah.
It's been done.
It was a fun opportunity because the band is named after the song, not the other way around. So it all came full circle. We're just wrapping up everything. We'll have CDs, new merch, and stuff like that. So that's exciting. And the album has more Greek mythology songs on it, like Prometheus and Narcissus, two of my favorite stories. So, you know, it's also got a song called Cinderella about the Grimm's fairy tale. So, you know,
Okay.
inspiration from everywhere. But, there's a lot coming up. We're going to do some tour dates with that. That'll be fun.
So yeah, keep the old peepers peeled.
Can I list all my socials and stuff? Is
Yeah,
now
cool.
the
Sure,
time
and
for
then
that?
we'll also make sure we post them all too
Yeah,
when the
please
episode
do.
drops. Sure, give
Okay.
'em shout out.
So for Aurora Bella, my website is auroramusician.com. Instagram Aurora Musician. Facebook Aurora Bella. Whatever. You can find all of the updates for all of my stuff going on those
MySpace?
places. I don't have MySpace. I'm not
Bebo?
old enough for MySpace. I missed it. And for the band Little Darkness, we've got Little Darkness, littledarkness.ca, I think. Genuine. I could be wrong. It might be littledarknessband.ca. It's something. Here, let's look it up.
I would have really loved it if she said, "Oh yeah, and you can find my band at http://
www.
It keeps asking if I want to complete the action using Ticketmaster.
Jesus.
No, it is littledarkness.ca. I was right the first time.
Okay, amazing.
I know what I'm talking about. Littledarkness.ca and Little Darkness music on Instagram, all that. We've got all of our stuff coming out through that. You'll be able to buy CDs, listen to all the music coming up. We'll have singles dropping next month. And that's what's going on.
Thank you very much, Aurora, and thank you very much again to Somewhere Else for hosting our podcast. This has been the Anything Else at Somewhere Else podcast. I hope you join us next week, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you.